A rich man pulled her out of the underpass. "You'll be my wife for an hour. Just stay quiet," he told her. But when some foreigners nearby started speaking French, the girl turned pale. She quickly wrote a note on a napkin. "Leave right now." He didn't understand at first who he had taken with him. But before we go on with the story, tell me in the comments, what's your name and what city are you from? It was already evening, but the city was still full of life. Streetlights sent sharp beams through the dark, catching glimpses of people walking fast. The sounds of cars and people talking mixed into a noisy blur. People rushed home from work, trying to catch a taxi or a bus. Nearby, a stream of people flowed into the underground walkway near the main square. It smelled like dust, dampness, and forgotten stories. In places like this, you often see street musicians, beggars, or people with nowhere else to go. Igor, a tall man about 35 years old, with neatly slicked back hair and a fancy black coat, stepped out of the back seat of his expensive car. Suddenly, he noticed something that caught his attention. His driver, used to his boss's sudden decisions, watched him in the rearview mirror with concern. But Igor said nothing and walked quickly toward the underpass. Igor was a busy man, usually not the emotional type. But today, he felt a strange pull to go near the girl sitting on the cold stone floor. Her face was thin but still had elegant features. Her dark blonde hair was messy, but her small wrists and hands looked delicate, even if dirty. Her clothes looked old, jeans, a worn hoodie, and a thin coat that wasn't warm enough for November. Still, there was something about how she sat, how she nervously straightened her collar, that said, this girl wasn't born poor. She doesn't look like someone who's lived on the streets her whole life. Igor paused, wondering why he even cared. Why couldn't he just walk away? But time was short. In 15 minutes, he had a meeting with foreign investors. He needed to figure out how to explain why he showed up without a wife. Of course, he didn't have a real wife. In fact, he hadn't been in a serious relationship for a while. But the French partners he'd been negotiating with for 6 months had dropped hints. For them, it mattered that Igor looked like a stable, respectable businessman, and that usually meant being married. Having a wife would give them more trust in him. Igor remembers a difficult conversation he had with his advisor. If you want to impress them, the advisor had said, pretend your life is perfect. No drama, no mess. Everything calm, respectful, and proper. That was the last piece of advice he got. Igor doesn't like lying. But he also doesn't want to lose this opportunity. It's a big project, an investment in his hotel and restaurant chain, opening new locations, entering new markets. It could mean millions. Getting into the French market has been his dream for a long time, and his partners feel the same. But he couldn't find anyone to play the role of his wife. That's when a wild idea came to him. Rent a wife, just for an hour. Then he saw the girl sitting in the underpass and decided to take a chance. He stopped in front of her, holding a folded bill in his hand. He looked her straight in the eyes. In her eyes, he saw sadness, but also something strong, like determination. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with distrust and a bit of defiance. Igor wasn't sure if it would work, but he had no time. He needed to act fast. He held out the money and said in a low, serious voice, "Come with me. Take the money. I need you to pretend to be my wife for 1 hour. Just stay quiet. Do you understand?" The girl stared at him, clearly thinking he might be crazy. But maybe she really needed the money. And maybe she had no other choice. Igor could feel time slipping away. He gently grabbed her arm and helped her stand. She still looked unsure, but she didn't resist. She let him lead her toward the car. The driver raised his eyebrows when he saw them, but didn't say anything. He was used to Igor's sudden decisions. They got into the car. Igor and the stranger sat silently in the back. Inside, it felt warm and stuffy, so different from the cold air outside. Igor offered her a flask of water to warm up. She didn't drink it. She just clutched the bill in her hands, like she was afraid someone might take it away. Igor glanced at her again. Despite her tired and dirty appearance, she looked surprisingly graceful. Her posture was straight, her lips pressed tight, and her face had sharp, elegant features. Neither of them spoke during the ride. Soon, The car pulled up to a tall business center, where the meeting with the French investors was set to happen. As they got into the elevator, Igor leaned toward her and whispered quickly, "Just stay quiet. Don't get involved. Just sit and nod if you need to," Igor said. "Maybe smile once or twice if I wink, okay?"
Got it.
The girl pressed her lips together and gave a small nod. Igor figured she probably wouldn't say anything at all, and that was fine with him. All he needed was to make a good impression, to show the guests that everything in his personal life looked normal. That would help clear up any doubts they had about his stability. They walked into a large, bright room with huge windows showing the city lights. Inside, two men in business suits were waiting, French company reps. They smiled politely, but looked tired from their flight. A translator was with them, speaking Russian with a strong accent. Igor could tell the French investors were a bit nervous. They were hoping for a final agreement, or at least some solid reasons
to continue the partnership.
Igor shook hands with everyone and introduced the girl beside him. "This is my wife, Elena." He almost smiled to himself. It sounded like, "Elena, my queen of hearts." Funny, since he didn't even know her real name. He had just picked the first name that came to mind. The girl, now Elena, stood quietly, lowered her head a little, and gave a small, polite smile. The coat Igor had given her didn't really fit, but it helped hide her old clothes. One of the French men, Charles, introduced himself in broken Russian and asked where Elena studied and what she did. Without missing a beat, Igor made something up. "She's a philologist," he said. "She works from home sometimes, does translations. Right now, she's on creative leave." Elena gave a tiny nod, keeping her eyes low. It was clear she was nervous, but she was doing her best to stay calm. The investors switched to English and asked a few more questions about the future of their joint project. Igor easily switched languages. He was used to dealing with international partners. Elena stayed silent in the background. At the table, they discussed contract details, when to launch, how to split ownership, what each partner would invest, and how quality would be managed. Every now and then, Charles glanced at Elena. Everything seems to be going as planned. The French investors are happy to see that Igor has a wife. They don't ask any difficult questions, only business-related ones. At the end of the meeting, they agree to continue the discussion over dinner at one of the city's top restaurants. They want to celebrate the start of their partnership and talk over the final details in a more relaxed setting. Igor takes Elena to the car and starts driving to the restaurant. On the way, he tells her, "You did okay. Just don't drink too much at dinner and don't talk too much. You just need to sit quietly, that's it." The girl stares out the window and suddenly asks, "Is this really all that important? Lying about having a wife and dragging a stranger off the street?" Igor frowns and replies, "It's more important than you think. If this works out, I can grow my business, open new branches. But why am I even explaining this to you?" The girl sighs and turns her head away. For a moment, Igor thinks he hears her whisper, "Yeah, your business is more important than someone else's life." But he's not sure he heard it right. Maybe it was just in his head. On the way to the restaurant, Igor decides she needs better clothes, something more suitable, so she looks the part. He takes her to an expensive clothing store. He doesn't give her time to argue. He quickly chooses a decent dress and shoes, and asks a sales assistant to help her in the fitting room. At first, the girl says no, but when she sees he's serious and ready to spend money, she gives in a little. She changes into the dress. Even though she still looks guarded and distant, she now blends in much better. The dress fits her well, and her hair looks tidier. She fixes her face quickly and looks presentable. Before they leave, Igor gives her a purse with a few accessories to complete the look. For a brief second, he's impressed by how she looks, but then his face turns serious again. "All right, now we can go to dinner." At the restaurant, their French partners are already waiting. Besides Charles, there's Pierre and a few assistants, including the translator. The place is elegant. Soft lighting, shining silverware, big windows showing the glowing city outside. The atmosphere is calm and perfect for quiet conversation. Igor and Elena sit at the table. They're served appetizers and fine wine. Charles jokes, "I'd love to hear Madame's opinion on the new wine collection we're sending to France." But Igor quickly responds, "She prefers to observe. Not much for talking. Sorry, she gets tired easily." Elena stays quiet, giving a small smile now and then. The conversation slowly shifts between English and Russian, and then back to English again. That's normal when people from different countries talk together. The French investors start discussing logistics and customs. Igor, full of energy, shares his plans to open a few hotel branches in France, or at least somewhere in Europe. He also talks about expanding his restaurant chain in Russia, using French cuisine as a special theme. He's surprised how smoothly everything is going, even though, right next to him, sits a strange woman he barely knows. Suddenly, Charles turns to his colleague and says something in French. At first, Igor doesn't pay much attention. But then, from the corner of his eye, he notices that Elena's face turns pale. He wonders if she suddenly feels sick. Her fingers, resting on her knees, curl into a tight fist. Sweat appears on her forehead. She looks away, pretending to look out the window, but Igor can tell she's nervous. Charles notices her reaction too and asks something in French, gently checking if she feels okay. Igor is about to translate, but to his surprise, Elena quietly answers in Russian, "I'm fine, just tired." The Frenchmen whisper something to each other. Igor catches a few words, something like, "étrange, elle comprend." He doesn't fully understand, but he knows something's off. Elena bites her lip. She seems frozen, almost holding her breath, leaning slightly forward toward the table. Igor starts to worry. Something's clearly wrong. She looks like she's silently fighting panic. Then, pretending to adjust the napkin on her lap, she quickly takes a pen from her purse and writes something on the corner of the fabric. Her move is subtle, almost invisible to the others, but Igor sees it. She writes a few words, then gently slides the napkin toward him. Igor looks down. On it, she wrote, "Leave now. Urgent." He's shocked. He looks at her in confusion, raising his eyebrows. Elena meets his eyes. There's fear in her face. She looks at him, almost begging him to understand. He notices sweat on her neck. She's clearly scared. Something's wrong, very wrong. Igor doesn't know what happened. Maybe someone recognized her. Maybe something was said at the table that put her in danger. He's not sure. But he knows one thing: he needs to get her out of there. Without showing panic, Igor calmly says to the group, "Excuse me, gentlemen, we need just a few minutes. We've received an urgent message from our lawyer." Igor stands up and grabs Elena's hand, ignoring the confused and slightly annoyed looks from the French partners. Charles, though surprised, gives a polite nod. "Bien, sir. We'll wait." Igor leads Elena to the area near the coat room. Once they're out of sight, he lowers his voice and asks, "What's going on? Why do you look so pale?" Elena avoids his eyes. She glances around nervously, like she's afraid someone might be listening. Then she exhales and says, "You have no idea what you've gotten into. I can't be around those people. If you want to stay safe, you need to leave.
Now."
Igor frowns, his voice low but firm. "Listen, those people are my potential business partners. I can't just walk out. This is about my money, my contract. What danger are you talking about?" Elena squeezes her hands tightly. "You don't get it. This is serious. I'm not going to explain. I just need to leave. I won't cause any trouble. Just let me go." Igor hesitates. A thought crosses his mind. Maybe she's hiding something, or maybe she's involved in something dangerous. Was she connected to a crime? Did she have some kind of trouble in France? But something about her voice sounds real. Too serious to ignore. He speaks carefully. "Okay, here's what we'll do. I'll say we have an emergency, that I need to take you to the hospital. That way, we leave without offending anyone. Just follow my lead, all right?" Elena nods, though she still looks like she wants to run away alone. Still, she goes back with him. Inside the meeting room, Igor puts on a calm face and apologizes in English. "I'm very sorry. My wife isn't feeling well. I need to take her to the hospital. Can we continue tomorrow? The French partners are a bit annoyed, but they stay polite. They wish Elena good health. Igor hopes they didn't notice just how scared she looked. Outside, he calls for a car. While they wait, he turns to her and asks quietly, "Can you just explain something? What was all that about?" Elena is still holding the napkin in her hand. A shadow of fear crosses her face again. "I can't tell you," she says. "Or maybe I just don't want to. Let's just say, it's not your problem." She gives him a look. "Thanks for getting me out of there. But I need to go on my own now." Igor suddenly realizes he doesn't want to just let her go. This girl came from nowhere, but something about her fear feels real. She's clearly terrified of the Frenchman, and maybe she has a good reason. At the same time, something starts to stir in Igor, a mix of curiosity and concern. It doesn't feel right to just let her walk away. She doesn't seem like just a random stranger. She feels like part of some strange puzzle he's now involved in. He reaches out his hand and says, "Look, you can leave if you want. But look at yourself, you're shaking, it's freezing outside, and you're not dressed for this weather. Even with the new clothes I bought you, it's not enough. Where are you even going in the middle of the night?" The girl glances at him, then replies firmly, "I'll find somewhere to sleep. It's none of your business." Igor sighs in frustration. Deep down, it bothers him that she's so distant, so closed off. She won't share anything, not even a little. But he tries to stay calm and says in a softer voice, "All right, I get it. It's your choice. But I'm offering you a place to stay for the night. We'll figure everything out tomorrow. I'm not asking you for anything. I just don't want to feel guilty later if something happens to you." She looks at him. There's a spark in her eyes, like she's having an inner fight with herself. But in the end, fear and exhaustion win. "Okay," she says quietly, "but just for one night. And don't think you own me or that I owe you anything." Igor nods, pulling his coat tighter and reaching into his pocket for the keys. The car arrives soon and they both get in. As the driver pulls away, Igor tries to ask a few questions. But Elena leans her head against the window and closes her eyes, clearly signaling she's done talking. They ride in silence. Igor sneaks glances at her, at the thin strands of hair falling over her face, at how tense her shoulders are, like she's ready to run at any second. He doesn't understand why he's so drawn to her. He's not used to women ignoring him. Usually, they admire his success or try to impress him. But she's different. Her eyes show something else, not fear alone, but strength, pride, and a quiet contempt he's never seen before. The driver drops them off at Igor's home, a spacious penthouse in a modern high-rise. They ride the elevator in silence. The mirrored walls reflect Elena's tired face as she stares down at the floor. When the doors open, they walk into his apartment. Everything is clean, stylish, high-end furniture, large windows, soft lighting. Elena looks around and goes quiet. It's like this is the first time she's been in a place like this. Igor takes off his coat and gently says, "Come sit in the living room. Want some tea? Coffee?" She sits stiffly on the edge of the couch and says, "No, thank you." Then after looking around, she adds, "You live here alone? It's a big place." Igor nods. "Yes, alone. I have visitors sometimes, but mostly, I'm used to being by myself. My parents have been living abroad for a long time," Igor says. "I don't have many close friends. Everyone's busy with their own lives. And work, it takes up most of my time." The girl doesn't reply. She just looks around the room, quietly studying the space. Igor notices that her eyes pause on the painting on the wall, the porcelain vase on the shelf, like she understands these things, or at least recognizes them. He asks, "Are you an art critic or something?" She gives a small, strange smile.
No.
"Not really." The conversation fades again. Igor heads off to get her a blanket and pillow. He offers her the bathroom to take a shower and tells her she can sleep on the couch. "At least it's warmer than the underpass," he says. She agrees. A little while later, she comes out of the bathroom wearing clean home clothes. An old tracksuit Igor had found for her. She sits down on the sofa, looks up at the ceiling, and says nothing. Igor lingers in the living room for a moment. He feels a mix of emotions, frustration at how closed off she is, curiosity, and a strange urge to protect her. He says, "Tomorrow, I still need to meet with those French partners. I need to know why you're so afraid of them. Do you speak French? Why did you react like that to their language?" The girl turns her head away. "I'm tired," she says. "Let's talk tomorrow if I'm still here." Igor gets the message. He won't get any answers tonight. He tells her goodnight and goes to his room, already sensing tomorrow won't be easy. The night ends full of questions. Igor still doesn't know who she is. She's a total stranger, someone who seems terrified of French-speaking people. And yet, she's now sleeping under his roof. He doesn't understand why he got pulled into this so fast, but he knows he's already involved. The girl, Elena, as he called her, lies awake, listening to the wind hum outside the windows of the high-rise. She keeps thinking, did I make the right choice by coming here? On one hand, she feels safe for now. But what if Igor changes his mind tomorrow and tells her to leave, just because she doesn't do what he expects? What if those French-speaking men already know who she really is? Should she keep pretending to be his wife just to help him close his business deal? There are too many questions and no clear answers. But one thing is certain. This isn't just about a deal anymore. Now it could be about her safety. And maybe Igor's reputation, too. The night drags on slowly, heavy with tension. And so ends the first part of this unpredictable story. A story where two strangers' lives suddenly crossed paths in the most unexpected way. He's ready to do anything to impress foreign investors. She's running from something she hasn't explained. What is she hiding, this girl with proud posture and worried eyes? And where will Igor's strange decision lead him? There are still too many questions and no answers. But one thing is clear, there's no going back now. When morning comes, both of them will have to face even more pressure. Outside the window, the city lights flicker in and out, and only the moon silently watches over this strange story. A story filled with secrets, personal motives, and maybe the start of something real. A feeling that could grow into something deeper. Elena wakes up as soft morning light comes through the thin curtains. For a moment, she doesn't remember where she is. She feels a wave of panic. Another unfamiliar place. Another risk. She's used to running. And now she wonders, what if the people I'm hiding from find me here? Then memories from last night come back. Igor's calm but serious voice. His offer to let her stay. And that tense moment at the restaurant when she almost exposed herself to the French men. Agreeing to pretend to be his wife. Maybe that was a mistake. She sits up on the sofa, looking around. Everything looks expensive. Glass walls with a view of the city, shiny wood floors, modern furniture. Bookshelves. She looks down and realizes she's still wearing the clean tracksuit Igor gave her. It's a bit too big but warm. She listens carefully. Someone is moving in the apartment. She thinks, I should leave now, before he sees me. I don't want to depend on anyone. She slides off the couch quietly and looks around for her shoes. But just then, Igor walks in from the kitchen. His hair is messy, he's wearing a nice house robe, and his eyes are already alert. You're awake, he says. How did you sleep? Elena shrugs a little and replies quietly.
Fine.
Thanks for the place to sleep, but I need to go now. She starts to walk past him, but Igor gently blocks her with his arm. Not in a threatening way, just firm. Wait, he says. It's not that simple. Where do you think you're going so early? Don't you remember, we have a lot to do today. She looks at him like he's speaking a different language. What do you mean we? I'm not part of your plans. This has nothing to do with me. I shouldn't even be here. Igor shakes his head. That's not true. Yesterday we started something. You were introduced as my wife. I can't just tell my partners that it was all fake. That would ruin not just my reputation, but also a deal worth millions. It all depends on them believing I have a stable personal life. He pauses, then adds, so we either keep pretending, or I'm in big trouble. Elena gives a faint smile and looks down. And What do I get in return? I'm the one risking my life, standing next to people who might recognize me. Just hearing them speak French makes me freeze.
I don't want to see them again.
Igor pauses for a moment, then says, Look, I'm not asking you to date me. Just stay next to me officially. I just need you to show up at the right times. He looks at her seriously. Also, tell me what's scaring you so much. Maybe I can help make things safer for you. Elena stays quiet for a while, then softly says, There are some issues I need to sort out. With documents. And the people who are looking for me.
I don't want to talk about it now.
Just trust me. They're very dangerous. She doesn't explain who these people are, but Igor sees a dark, concerned look forming on her face. He asks, Are they connected to those French speakers? Or is this something different? Elena bites her lip and turns away to look out the window. She doesn't answer. Igor sighs. All right. I can see you're not ready to tell me everything. But how about this? If you stay and play the part of my wife at the events, I'll help you stay safe. He adds, I have lawyer connections. I can even hire security if needed. But I need to know what we're up against. Elena hesitates. Having someone who's offering help is tempting. She's tired of hiding in underground walkways, always afraid of being spotted or caught. She looks around at the clean apartment, the comfort, the warmth, and then back at Igor, whose sharp features still show a hint of kindness. Maybe staying here isn't as risky as going back to the streets. Okay, she says quietly.
For now.
Just until I fix a few things. But I hope you won't betray me. Igor lets out a slow breath, relieved. I won't, he says. I'm taking a risk too, don't forget. He smiles faintly. We can think of it like a deal. And by the way, if you're hungry, breakfast is ready. I ordered food. Hope you don't mind. Elena looks at him with uncertainty, but her stomach growls, giving her away. She heads toward the kitchen. In the large, modern kitchen, she sees everything laid out. Neatly packaged meals from a fancy restaurant. For the first time in a long while, she feels like she can eat properly. She sits down, picks up a piece of bread, and cuts it carefully, as if worried she might mess up the clean table. Then she notices her hand is slightly shaking. Too many things have changed overnight. Igor places a cup of coffee in front of her, watching her quietly. You can relax. No one else is here, just us. He says while pouring himself a glass of juice. She takes a sip of coffee and glances at the window. The sun is rising over the city. Suddenly she realizes she can't remember the last time she had breakfast. Without fear, without looking over her shoulder, her eyes wander across a shelf in the kitchen. She notices a few books in French. La Condition Humaine, Le Petit Prince, and some other classics. And her heart skips again. She bites her lip and avoids looking at the books, not wanting to show how curious she really is. But inside, a memory surfaces of a time when she studied at a fancy school, where they taught French and English. She remembers teachers' faces, school trips to Europe, and then how everything collapsed when she got pulled into something dark, something that forced her to run. She quickly pushes those memories away and tries to focus on the present. Do you like French literature? Igor suddenly asks. She flinches just a little, but tries to stay calm. Not really, she says quietly. I just read some now and then. Igor shrugs. I read a bit too, but I don't know the language well. Partners gave me those books, said it would help if I learned French for business reasons. But honestly, I've never had the time. He glances at her. Still, I noticed you reacted strongly to the French language. But all right, I won't press. I get it. Everyone has their own past. Elena says nothing. She bites into her bread and quickly tries to change the topic. You said you have restaurants and hotels. Is that your family business? Or did you build it all yourself? Igor seems happy to talk about it. I started back when I was still a student, he says. My friend and I opened a small bar. Later, he dropped out of it, so I took a loan, put everything I had on the line, and took a chance to grow. Over time, I opened a few more restaurants. Then I moved into hotels. Now I own several around the country. My parents live abroad now. They're not really interested in what I do, so I've always counted on myself. I had some investors, but that path is slow and full of drama. I thought about getting married once, but most of the women I met were only interested in my money or status. So yeah, he finishes with a small laugh. It's not as romantic as it might look from the outside. Elena feels a sudden, quiet sympathy. There's something in his voice, half bitter, half honest. Now she better understands why he needs to show a perfect family image to his business partners. He's tired of the assumptions people make about a man who's single and successful, as if that means he's unstable or unreliable. It makes her feel a little guilty. If she hadn't shown up in his life, he might have found someone else to pretend to be his wife. But he chose her, a stranger from the street. It sounds crazy, but now that she sees the distant look in his eyes, she actually feels a little sorry for him. I understand, she says softly. Igor looks at her, noticing a trace of understanding in her eyes. Something unspoken passes between them, like quiet agreement. As breakfast ends, Elena begins to stand up, ready to leave again. But Igor gently stops her. Please just stay, he says. At least for today. We've got meetings this week, and I really need this not. In return, I promised I'd help you stay safe, Igor says. Plus, you said your documents are missing or not in order, right? Elena answers quietly, her voice serious.
Yes.
I need to restore some papers. I've been scared for a long time that someone might find me. That's why I've been hiding. Igor frowns and picks up his phone from the table. All right. I know a lawyer. We can talk to him and figure out how to help you. Maybe even get some temporary documents made. But to do that, he adds, I at least need to know your real name. Elena's hand clenches tightly.
She sighs.
Just call me Elena. I'm not ready to share my real name. Not even with you. Igor slowly sets the phone down. Okay. Elena for now. But are you sure you don't want to tell me who's chasing you? She stays silent, struggling. In her mind, images return, a group of people she once got involved with abroad. It wasn't just criminals. Some had connections in high places. The memories are painful and terrifying. She exhales, trying to let it go. Time passes. Elena walks slowly around the apartment. She notices everything is stylish and expensive, but cold, empty. No personal touches, no photos. No signs of comfort or warmth. She realizes that Igor must not spend much time here. And when he does, he clearly doesn't care for the small details. Suddenly, she understands something. That behind all the success and shine, he's just lonely. And in a strange way, she relates. She's also been alone for so long. No family. No safety. She remembers the life she had before, when people cared about her,
when she was part of something.
Now it's all gone. She picks up a book of French poetry. As she flips through the pages, she realizes she still remembers some of the lines by heart. It brings a sharp pain. She had studied at a top university, made friends with foreign students, even spent time in Paris and Lyon on a student exchange. And it was there in France that something happened. Something dark that made her run. Pieces of memory flash through her mind. People in suits, business deals. Her father demanding she return home.
Crying.
Running. Fear that she'd be forced to do something. Against her own conscience. It's all too much. She closes the book sharply, trying to shut the past out. When she walks back into the living room, Igor is dressed in a business suit, ready to leave. I'm heading out for about an hour, he says. Need to check on one of my restaurants. You can stay here. Lock the door, if you want. No one will come in without me letting them. Later, he adds, I'll come back, and we'll have to go together to my office. There's another meeting with the French. This meeting won't be official, Igor says. So, you probably won't need to stay long. Just show up on camera with me, and we'll leave together. That's it.
Can you handle that?
Elena gives a small, crooked smile. I'm used to strange roles by now. Igor nods, and leaves the apartment. Elena is alone again. She looks around and, for the first time in a while, feels like this place is actually safe. But deep down, she knows Igor didn't offer help just to be nice. He needs peace and a stable image, so he can close his business deals with the French.
She's just a piece in that plan.
Time passes slowly. She doesn't turn on the TV or the computer. She's too scared someone might track her somehow. Then suddenly, the intercom rings. A woman's voice says, "Hello, I have a delivery of groceries and some papers for Mr. Igor. May I come in?" Elena freezes. She remembers Igor told her no one would come without warning. Something doesn't feel right. Carefully, she presses the talk button. "Who are you?" she asks quietly. The voice replies, giving a name, saying she's Igor's assistant. But Elena doesn't feel sure. In the end, she decides not to open the door. "Igor told me not to let anyone in unless he calls first," she says. The woman on the other end swears under her breath and leaves. Elena's heart is racing. What if someone really is already looking for her? She listens to the silence, realizing how much she values the safety of this apartment. She starts to panic a little. What if they already found her? A few hours later, Igor returns. Elena immediately tells him about the strange call. Igor listens and then says, "That might have been my old assistant. She probably found out I was back in the city. But still, she knows not to show up without telling me first. You did the right thing by not letting her in." He gives her a reassuring look. "Next time, if someone comes, I'll warn you in advance." Then he picks up his phone and calls his lawyer. He explains that someone needs help replacing lost documents and might need temporary papers or permits. He asks the lawyer to figure out a solution. Later that evening, Igor takes Elena to his office. They meet briefly with the French partners, who bring a few more documents to review. Elena keeps quiet and stays in the background, but one of the partners, Pierre, smiles at her and tries to start a conversation in French. Elena immediately stiffens, but Igor quickly steps in. He pretends she doesn't speak French well and smoothly changes the subject. After a short business talk, Igor politely says, "Sorry, but we have to leave now." As they walk outside, Igor quietly asks, "Do you really speak French? I don't get it. Wouldn't it be better to just tell them the truth? Then I wouldn't have to cover for you like that." Elena quickly replies,
"No.
This way is safer. If they know I understand everything they say, I'll be in serious trouble." Igor bites his lip. "Well, sounds like you're already in trouble."
He sighs.
"All right, we'll keep it that way. I told them you only speak English, and that you're not feeling well right now." Elena just gives a tired look, realizing how strange this whole situation really is. As they head toward the car, Igor gets a phone call. It's from the security team at one of his restaurants. "Boss," the guard says, "a man came by a few days ago asking about you. Said he had a personal question and wanted to know which place you visit most." Igor asks for a description, and his stomach tightens. Someone is definitely looking for him, and maybe not just him. Maybe it's connected to the girl sitting beside him. When the call ends, Igor turns to Elena. "Someone's asking questions about me, and I have a feeling it's actually about you." Elena clasps her hands together.
"Probably.
"I told you someone's after me, but I don't fully know what they want. Or maybe I do, and I just can't say it." Igor whistles softly.
Damn. I think I've stepped into a mess.
But it's too late to back out now. What would I even tell the French partners? He pauses. Elena looks at him and feels something unexpected. A bit of warmth. She's not used to anyone caring about her. It feels like she finally has someone on her side. Still, part of her is afraid to trust. That night, when they return to the apartment, Igor suggests she stay with him, at least until the business deal is done. After that, he says, "We'll figure out a safer place for you. We'll find a way to deal with whoever's after you." Elena lowers her head. "I don't want to cause you trouble, but I don't think those people are easy to escape from. I've been running for so long. I'm just tired." Igor nods. "Then let's stop running. Let's protect ourselves together." If there's danger, I'll make sure you're safe. Elena gives him a small, crooked smile. She feels thankful, but the words don't come out. How do you thank someone who pulled you out of a subway tunnel and made you pretend to be his wife, yet somehow treats you with real care? Maybe it's just business for him, but there's something real in his voice too. As the days pass, they start to speak more openly with each other. When they're home, Igor talks about his dreams, how he wants to open another French-style restaurant, but is scared of the competition. He says he once thought about moving abroad, but stayed because he felt he could do more here, in his home country. Elena sometimes joins in the conversation. She comments on French culture, and even though she's cautious, there are moments she shares little pieces of what she knows about life in Europe. You really know a lot, Igor says one evening, surprised. Where'd you learn all that? She shrugs playfully. I've read a lot, and I've met many kinds of people. Igor notices how, each night, she stares out the window in silence, as if remembering something, or planning an escape. Sometimes she stands in front of the mirror and looks at herself like she doesn't recognize who she is. In these borrowed clothes, in this strange but comfortable apartment. And, without realizing it, Igor starts getting used to having her around. Igor notices that Elena quietly keeps the kitchen clean. Sometimes she even cooks breakfast before he wakes up. She does it so well that it surprises him. She doesn't act like someone who's been living on the street. Every now and then, she asks him for access to international news websites. He agrees, even though he sees how nervous she gets. While reading, she usually sighs deeply and closes the browser. No matter how safe the apartment is, she always seems tense, like she's waiting for something bad to happen. Meanwhile, Igor starts getting warning signs. He receives threatening emails. The messages say that if he keeps protecting that person, he might lose everything. Igor is shocked. How did they even get his personal email? The messages are written in a mix of English and French. He translates one into Russian and shows it to Elena. Her face goes pale. It's clear she understands what it means. They've found me, she whispers. And now they're threatening you too. Igor looks at her and feels something shift inside him. He wants to protect her. More than makes sense. I won't back down, he says firmly. I have enough power to keep us safe. But I need your help too. Be my wife a little longer. Let's finish this deal, and then we'll figure out how to get you out of danger. Elena lowers her eyes and nods quietly. Okay, she says. This becomes their silent agreement, a partnership where he offers safety, and she helps protect his public image. By now, they've grown closer. They talk more in the evenings, share coffee, and sometimes laugh about how strange their first meeting was. Igor now gently touches her hand sometimes when he speaks, and unlike before, she doesn't pull away. She still seems guarded, but something is changing. At the same time, the outside pressure is growing. His French business partners start asking for stronger guarantees. In the background, mysterious people are still searching for Elena, making it impossible for her to disappear completely. Igor realizes this is more than just a business risk. He might be in real danger now too, but he doesn't back out, because Elena no longer feels like just a stranger to him. She's someone caught in a dangerous life, and he's the only one helping her. Elena begins to see Igor differently too. He may act like a tough businessman, but under that, she sees a man with a heart. Someone who didn't turn away when things got complicated. The second part of their story ends with both of them sitting together in the living room, going over printed documents. Igor points out what they'll need for their upcoming meeting with the lawyer. Elena catches Igor's gaze. There's something warm in the way he looks at her, and she quickly looks away, embarrassed. She still has fear inside her, shadows of the past that won't leave, but when she's near Igor, she feels safer than she has in many months. She doesn't want to admit it to herself, but she's starting to feel something for him. Something more than just gratitude. Igor finishes putting the documents into a folder. He wonders if he's doing the right thing. He's risking a huge deal, his own money. And now, it feels like he's risking his heart too. This girl, mysterious and dangerous, has started to draw him in. That warm, confusing feeling is where this second chapter of their story ends, leaving behind questions about Elena's past and what will happen next between them. The next morning, Elena sits alone on the balcony, with a cup of tea in her hands, looking out over the city. She feels a strange mix of peace and worry, like she wants to run, but something is making her stay. Lately, something gentle has been growing between her and Igor. They're not just pretending to be a married couple for the French partners anymore. They've started spending their evenings together, talking sometimes about deep things people only share with close friends. But her secrets still stand between them. Every time Igor tries to ask more, she pulls back. It's like she's scared that, if she opens up too much, she'll become even more exposed. Igor, on the other hand, is frustrated. He's always been practical, focused on business. Now he finds himself thinking about her too much. He knows he shouldn't, but he can't stop. He sees her now, sitting on the balcony. He quietly walks over and asks, "Are you okay?" Elena gives him a small smile. "Yes," she says. "I was just thinking how far we've come." Igor moves closer and rests his hand on the balcony railing beside her. He doesn't say anything at first. Elena feels his presence beside her. She wants to tell him that she still wakes up in the middle of the night, scared she'll hear someone speaking French, a sound that still chills her to the bone. But she keeps it in. She's used to hiding. So she just shrugs and pushes the feeling down. Igor looks at her quietly, his eyes on her narrow shoulders, and then softly asks, "You weren't always like this, right? You used to have friends? Family? Loving parents?" He hesitates, then adds, "Why do I feel like something happened that made you shut down like this? Why can't you trust me, at least a little?" Elena looks back at him calmly. "You're right. I don't fully trust you. But it's not because I don't want to. It's because it's dangerous. For me, and maybe for you too. I'd rather carry this burden alone than put you in harm's way." Igor frowns. "It's too late," he says quietly. "I'm already involved. If I could walk away, I would, but I can't." He falls silent. And between them, there's a quiet tension, the weight of everything left unsaid. Elena turns away so Igor doesn't see the confusion in her eyes. Later that day, they go to another meeting with the French investors. This time, they're supposed to sign the first agreement for working together. In the car, Igor is quiet and tense. Elena notices how often he grips the steering wheel, his eyes locked on the road with cold focus. She wants to tell him she understands how important this deal is, and that she feels bad for dragging him into her problems. But she can't bring herself to say it. When they arrive at the office, Elena puts on her calm, polite wife face again. She nods and smiles as they greet Charles and Pierre. The French men are cheerful and polite, keeping up the friendly act. And Igor tries to stay cool, even though inside he's full of stress and worry, mostly about the girl beside him. During the meeting, they go over the contract, deadlines, money, future plans, and how they'll work together. Elena listens quietly, but each time she hears a French word, her anxiety grows. She hears names of companies and people that sound familiar. Too familiar. But she keeps pretending she doesn't understand. When the meeting ends, Charles smiles and invites Igor, his wife, and the rest of the team to a casual party at a country house to celebrate their new partnership. Igor tries to say no, saying he's too busy. But he can tell the French partners don't like that answer. They clearly want everyone to act like one big happy family. In the end, Igor agrees to go. When Elena hears about the party, her hands clench. Her eyes dart around nervously. She's scared that in a relaxed setting like that, it will be harder to hide who she really is. Still, she knows saying no will raise suspicions, and that could ruin everything for Igor. So she agrees to go too. The party happens the next day. It's at a huge, fancy house outside the city. Beautiful gardens, fountains, big iron gates, and a driveway full of expensive cars. Elena is dressed in an elegant evening gown that Igor picked out for this kind of event. As they walk into the house, she feels a strong sense that something is about to go wrong. Igor stays close to her, calm but watchful, holding her arm gently. The French guests welcome them warmly, offering glasses of champagne. People speak in English, French, and even some Russian here and there. Pierre brings them over to a well-known man. He says, "Meet our partner and longtime friend, a respected philanthropist," and says his name in French. As soon as Elena hears the name and sees the man's face, her heart stops. He looks vaguely familiar. In her mind, an old memory starts to form, a family event from long ago, back when she was still young. The man stares at her closely, narrowing his eyes, as if trying to remember where he's seen her before. Igor doesn't notice anything strange at first. He politely greets the man and says something about their business partnership. But then Elena sees the man's eyes widen in surprise. "Misa tens. I live in Canes. Wait, do I know you?" he asks in French, staring straight at Elena. She tries hard to pretend she doesn't understand, but the man keeps talking, like he's sure he's recognizing her. "Essie Kvutz," he says, mentioning a name. Elena flinches slightly, though she tries to keep her face calm. Igor, sensing something is wrong, steps in and asks in English, "What's going on?" The man switches to English too, speaking excitedly. "I'm sure I've seen this girl in France," he says. "She looks exactly like the daughter of a famous man, a politician or someone powerful. She disappeared recently, and people are still talking about it." Elena tries to move away quietly, but the man gently grabs her hand. "Mademoiselle, they've been looking for you for a long time, haven't they? Your father is very worried." Igor freezes in place, shocked. He looks at Elena, who seems frozen too, unable to say anything. More people start gathering around, and soon it turns into a scene. Everyone begins to understand. This woman who came with Igor is not just his quiet wife. She might actually be a missing French woman with a powerful last name. Elena feels her cheeks burning, and tears start to rise. Igor's jaw tightens as he whispers to her that they need to leave now. But then someone in the crowd says, "Her father is a famous politician and academic. He's been searching for her ever since she vanished. He went to the media, hired detectives. There were rumors she was kidnapped or had run away. No one knew where she went. Maybe she was hiding because of a threat." Elena can't take it anymore. She finally speaks up, her voice trembling. "I don't want to explain anything. I'm sorry if I misled anyone. Igor, please take me away from here." But Igor doesn't move. He's staring at her, stunned, realizing now that the girl he's been living with, the girl he thought was just someone down on her luck, is actually the daughter of a powerful man, caught in the middle of what might be a major international scandal. His face hardens. "You lied to me," he says coldly. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" Igor asks, his voice tight. "I got dragged into something that could ruin my entire reputation. You don't know how serious this is." A small crowd of guests gathers around them, whispering. Elena breaks under the pressure and answers sharply. "You are the one who pulled me into this game. You made me pretend to be your wife. All I wanted was to stay hidden, to avoid the people who are chasing me. No one was supposed to know I was in Russia." Igor's face twists with bitterness. "And you didn't think it was important to tell me? Your father is a famous man? That dangerous people are after you? Maybe even criminals?" Elena snaps. "I didn't know if I could trust you. And what difference does it make? I don't even have a real relationship with my father. I ran away from that world. And now everything's come crashing back." At that moment, Pierre rushes over, trying to calm things down. He says everything is fine, that no one wants to make a scene. But it's clear the gossip has already spread. People are whispering, some are even taking photos. Elena looks at Igor, tears in her eyes, and softly says, "Let's go." Igor hesitates, but follows her out. They get into the car and drive away in silence. A silence thick with unspoken blame. When they reach Igor's apartment, Elena jumps out first. Igor follows, trying to grab her hand in the hallway. She pulls away harshly. "Stop dragging me wherever you want," she says, furious. "I'm not your wife, not even for one more hour. Did you hear what they said back there? I'm not who you thought I was. I come from a completely different world. And now I've pulled you into real danger." Igor shouts back, "Yes, you have. I could lose everything. If the truth gets out about our fake marriage, my partners will think I'm a fraud. They could cancel the deal. Maybe even sue me." Elena is crying now. "And what about me? I risked my life being with you. My enemies could find me. But you don't care about that, do you?" Igor glares at her. "How can you say it doesn't matter to me? You lived in my house. I gave you food, clothes, safety. I spent my time, my money, and my feelings." He stops suddenly, as if he didn't mean to say that last part. Elena hears it. Her voice softens, but it's full of pain. "Feelings," she says quietly. "Come on, Igor. You just needed someone to play the part of a loving wife, to look good in front of your business partners. To you, I was just something to use. Just a girl you picked up off the street, like an object." Igor flashes back to the night he found her in the underground tunnel. A mix of shame and anger rises in him. He nearly yells, "Yes. That night, I didn't care who you were. But now everything's changed." Elena isn't listening. She's already crying. "No," she says through tears. "Nothing has changed. You just wanted to use me. And now that you've found out I'm involved in something bigger, something dangerous, you're scared. You want me gone. Fine. I'm leaving. That's what you wanted anyway, right?" Igor throws his hands in the air, frustrated. "Go, then. If that's what you want, I don't care. But don't come back asking for help later." His voice sounds cold, but inside, he's hurting. Elena grabs her bag and rushes out the door. Igor doesn't try to stop her. He wants to call out, to tell her she does matter to him. But since she doesn't feel the same, maybe it's better this way. The door slams shut. Silence fills the apartment. Igor stands still, then slowly sinks onto the couch, closing his eyes, feeling empty. Meanwhile, Elena is wandering through the city, lost and heartbroken. She has nowhere to sleep, and now everyone in the business world probably knows who she really is. Her enemies might have already found out she's in Russia, and might even know where to find her. She thinks about calling her father, but remembers their painful history. She can't ask for help from old contacts either, too risky. If she stays outside, it's dangerous. But she has nowhere else to go. By morning, she finds a quiet alley near some garages. She curls up there trying to rest a little. He kept asking himself why he said such cruel things to her. Why did he let her leave alone? The careful, logical side of him was gone. Now he was running on pure emotion. He couldn't leave her out there, not like this. Even though she had lied and kept secrets, none of that mattered now. He began driving through the streets, returning to the places where he had first found her. He stopped random people, showing her photo, asking questions. But no one had seen her. That's how the third part of their story ends. Elena, barely escaping from the kidnapping, is covered in bruises and cuts. She runs through the streets, not knowing where to go. Meanwhile, Igor is filled with guilt and fear, searching for her, hoping he's not too late. His mind no longer cares about his business or the deal with the French. All he wants is to find her and keep her safe, even if it costs him everything. Elena, broken and exhausted, still feels betrayed. But deep inside, she holds on to a small hope that maybe Igor does care. Maybe he isn't as cold as she feared. But right now, they're apart. Both must make a choice, protect themselves or take a risk for someone else. They are both lost in emotion, pain, and fear. They worry things have gone too far. But sometimes, it's in these most dangerous moments that true feelings begin to show. If they can face the new storms heading their way. After escaping, Elena found shelter in an old, abandoned building on the edge of the city. She didn't even realize how she got there. She had been running, driven by the simple will to survive. She sat in a dark corner, leaning against a cracked wall, shaking from cold and fear. Her clothes were torn, and her knees were bloody from the fight. Her hand was numb from struggling so hard to break free. By dawn, she had dozed off for a moment, but woke up at every little sound. She knew she couldn't stay there. It was too dangerous. They were searching for her, and if anyone told the police, or the people chasing her, she'd be caught. Elena knows she has to leave the country, and fast, before it's too late. But everything is falling apart again. She has no documents, barely any money, and one of the only people she trusted, Igor, she just had a terrible fight with. Tears fill her eyes as she remembers his angry words and her own harsh replies. Deep down, she knows she made mistakes. If only she had told him the truth sooner. If only she had tried to explain. But now, maybe it's too late to fix anything. By morning, she hides in dark alleys, moving carefully through the streets. Eventually, she finds an internet cafe near the train station. For a few coins, she buys an hour of computer time, hoping to find a way out. She's nervous. What if someone tracks her through the cameras? She searches for travel options. She finds tours, but nothing works without proper ID. A risky idea crosses her mind: fake documents. On an underground forum, she chats with someone who gives her info. They talk about ways to leave the country illegally, but it sounds dangerous. Still, she's desperate. She prints out a short list of addresses where fake papers might be made. She's terrified, but it might be her only chance. If she stays in Russia, she's sure they'll find her. She thinks again about her family, the one she ran away from. Maybe her father really is looking for her. But going back could mean walking right into the same trap. She tried so hard to escape. Her mind is full of questions, and her heart is still full of fear. Meanwhile, Igor hasn't slept at all. He keeps calling his contacts, hoping someone has seen Elena. She didn't even take much with her, just a small bag. He blames himself for what he said to her, but he's also upset she lied to him for so long. By morning, he's completely on edge. Then someone tells him people are still looking for her, and that she might really be in danger. Igor decides to act. He calls in favors, hires a private investigator, and alerts the security staff at his hotels and restaurants. Then someone finally gives him a lead. A girl matching her description was seen at the train station. He doesn't waste a second. He grabs his car and races to that part of the city, hoping to find her before anyone else does. He knows she's probably tired, wearing the same clothes, and looking lost, easy to spot. Meanwhile, Elena still hasn't found a safe way to leave the country. Desperate, she talks to a shady man who claims he can get her across the border using someone else's documents. He tells her to meet him later in an old warehouse area on the edge of the city. He says that's where everything will be arranged. Elena knows it sounds like a trap, but she has no other choice. She agrees to meet the man and goes to the old warehouse at twilight, trying her best to stay hidden. When she reaches the gates, the same shady guy is waiting for her. He's wearing a worn-out jacket and has a strange, cold look in his eyes. He says the fake documents won't come cheap and asks if she brought the money. Elena lowers her eyes and pulls the last of her cash from her bag. She regrets not taking more from Igor, but at the time, she didn't want to take anything at all. Now, she's not even sure if what she has will be enough. The man grins as he counts the money. Then, without a word, he signals to someone hiding in the dark. Two more men step out of the shadows. They look rough, like criminals. Elena's heart drops. She realizes this isn't just a deal anymore. This could be a setup. Maybe they plan to kidnap her, or worse, sell her to the people who are looking for her. She tries to run, but it's too late. One man grabs her by the shoulders and pushes her against the wall. He smirks and says, "Someone put a price on your head. Don't make it harder. The client pays well." Elena struggles, fighting back with all her strength, but she's weak and outnumbered. Her energy is almost gone. Then suddenly brakes screech. Headlights flash. A car pulls up fast. She hears a sound she knows. It's Igor's car. Two bodyguards jump out, and Igor runs toward her, seeing the men already holding her down. A fight breaks out. Igor's men shove the attackers back. One of the thugs hits a guard.
Curses fly.
Igor rushes to Elena and helps her break free from the man who's grabbing her. She's shaking, pressed against the wall, holding onto a rusty metal rod she picked up, trying to defend herself. Igor pulls her away. His guards manage to overpower two of the men. The third one runs off into the darkness. Elena stares at Igor. He's breathing hard. His clothes are dirty. His hands are shaking from adrenaline. She wants to say something, but only a whisper comes out. "How did you find me?" Igor wraps his jacket around her and leads her to the car. "I looked all night," he says quietly. "There's no way I was going to leave you like that." There's tension in his voice, but also relief. They drive off, leaving the guards behind to decide whether they should call the police or just let the attackers go. Igor knows reporting it would be the smart thing to do, but Elena grabs his sleeve and begs him not to. If the police make a report, her real name could be revealed. And then someone powerful in France might find out where she is. Igor doesn't argue. He sees how shaken she is.
He nods.
For now, he'll let it go. In the car, Elena sits quietly in the passenger seat. She cries with her head down. When they finally get back to his apartment, they go upstairs together, both exhausted and full of unspoken feelings. Elena is shaking all over. Her heart is racing, and her mind feels like a storm. She asks for some water, and when Igor hands her the glass, she looks into his eyes and knows she can't keep hiding anymore. She's tired. Tired of being afraid. Tired of running. Tired of not telling the truth. Her voice trembling, she quietly says, "Please listen. I'll tell you everything. Just don't interrupt." Igor nods and sits beside her. Wrapped in a warm blanket on the sofa, Elena begins to speak. She tells him how she once lived in France. Her father was a powerful politician with ties to rich and important people in business and government. He wanted full control over her life. He picked a man from another wealthy family to be her husband, not because of love, but to strengthen political deals and expand his power. Elena resisted for a long time. Then, by accident, she discovered that her father was involved in corruption. Her arranged marriage was just one part of a much bigger, shady deal. She realized that her freedom didn't matter to anyone. Her father didn't see her as a daughter, just as a tool. When she started asking questions and pushing back, she began getting threats. Someone close to her father warned her that she knew too much and might become a target. Someone others might want to silence. That's when she ran away. She came to Russia, thinking it would be the safest place to hide. Her mother had been Russian, and she had learned the language as a child. To stay hidden, she pretended to be a poor girl. She lived on the streets and avoided anyone who spoke French. But when she met Igor, everything changed. Being around a well-known businessman made it harder to keep a low profile. People noticed her. Whispers started. And now, everything she worked so hard to hide was exposed. Her voice trails off. She clutches the glass in her hands and falls silent. Igor sits next to her, breathing heavily, thinking through everything she just said. It hurts. It stings. But slowly, he begins to understand why she had kept her distance from him. After a long pause, he finally speaks. He says it hurt to be lied to and kept in the dark, but he can't deny what he feels. He doesn't want to lose her. He admits that, at first, he played the husband role just to look good and close an important business deal. But somewhere along the way, she stopped being just someone playing a part. She became real to him. He hates all the lies and secrets, but now he understands why they existed. And he wants to help. Elena suddenly covers her face with her hands and begins to cry. Not out of fear, but relief. She was so sure he would walk away. But he didn't. Igor, overwhelmed with mixed emotions, gently pulls her into a hug and whispers, "We'll find a way through this. Just don't hide anything from me again." The next morning, Igor's phone starts ringing nonstop. It's the French investors. They're nervous. After what happened at the reception, Igor's image, and his wife's, is now in question. They give him an ultimatum. If Elena is involved in a political scandal or has any criminal ties, the deal is off. They want him to publicly distance himself from her. If he doesn't, he loses everything. Igor slowly looks at Elena. She has gone pale, waiting for his answer, afraid of what he'll say. Will Igor give Elena up just to save the deal he had worked so hard for? He takes a deep breath, gathers his strength, and tells the French partners that he won't speak badly about Elena. He says clearly, "I will not call her a liar. I won't take part in this." The investors are shocked. They realize this probably means the business partnership is over. They try to pressure him, even threaten lawsuits and talk of a public scandal. But Igor stands his ground. After several painful days of negotiations, the French partners officially pull out. They cancel their investment, and the deal falls apart. Igor loses a major opportunity, one that could have opened doors for him in the international market. His reputation in the business world takes a hit, but deep inside, he feels relieved, like he made the right choice. When Elena hears what happened, she's stunned. She never expected Igor to make such a big sacrifice for her. It's hard for her to accept that he put himself at risk, just to protect her. But along with the shock comes something warmer. A feeling that she's not alone anymore. He didn't betray her. He stood by her side. They both agree it's time to leave the city for a while. So Elena can figure out what to do about her family and her safety. There are few options. Maybe she could try to fix things with her father. Agree not to reveal his secrets in exchange for peace and safety. Or maybe it's time to go to another country, far from danger, and then decide how to move forward. Elena is torn. She's afraid to return to France, but she knows she can't run forever. Igor suggests a plan. He will go with her, with full security and legal help. He promises to hire a top lawyer in France. And if her father really broke the law, they'll either prove it or find a way to settle things. Elena cries and thanks him, but she warns him. "Helping me could bring more trouble to you." Igor replies firmly, "My business is one thing. You are something else. I'm not afraid to take a risk for you." In that moment, Elena realizes how deep her feelings are. She's never felt this way about any man before, a mix of love, trust, and deep respect. She remembers the first time they met, in that underground walkway, and sees how far they've come, how much they've both changed. In the final scene, they're packing their things. Igor says, "If we're going to France, I want us to go as a real couple, not fake husband and wife anymore." Elena blushes, lowering her eyes. He didn't propose with big words, but the meaning is clear in his look. He wants to be with her. She quietly lets him know she wants the same. Now it's time to prepare. Igor closes some projects, assigns responsibilities to others, and gets ready for a trip that could change everything for both of them. Elena contacts the few people she still trusts in France. One of them agrees to help her get at least some official ID papers again. Igor doesn't know how this story will end. Maybe they'll have to fight her family, maybe face powerful people involved in corruption. But one thing is clear, he's ready to stay by her side no matter what. There are two possible endings. In the happier version, they fly to France together. At first, it's difficult. They face legal problems, deal with government offices, and confront Elena's father. They also have to protect themselves from those who were trying to find and harm her. But in the end, they win. Elena gets the right to live freely, without being hunted. Her father begins to understand. She didn't run away just to be rebellious. She wanted freedom. They make a deal. Elena promises not to reveal his secrets, and he agrees to stop controlling her life. She decides to stay with Igor, not as his pretend wife, but as his real partner. They talk seriously about marriage. As a final scene, we imagine them sitting in a quiet little cafe in Paris. They're holding hands, looking at each other lovingly. They remember how it all began, when she was sitting alone in an underground walkway. And he, a wealthy businessman, offered her a strange deal to pretend to be his wife for one night. Now, their bond is real. It grew stronger through everything they faced together. If you prefer an open ending, the story ends with them packing their bags and boarding a plane. Igor looks at Elena. Elena looks at Igor. They both know the road ahead is full of danger and uncertainty. But now, they are ready to face it together. He takes her hand. They don't need to speak. There's hope in their eyes. Yes, Igor's business might take a hit. Yes, Elena's father might still fight back. And yes, the threats from her past are real. But something important has changed. They've stopped pretending. They're not using each other anymore. Now they care for each other, for real. And both of them know. Money and success mean nothing if you don't have love and a life without fear. For the first time, Elena doesn't feel alone or hunted. And Igor has finally found something he was missing all along: genuine love and deep connection.